Aaron Sullivan's here from GliaConnect. It's easy for me.
God, sorry.
Why are you throwing stuff, man?
I'm not.
Are you okay over there?
No,
You
I'm
miss your
fine.
workout
I do
this
have
morning?
to go, though,
Why?
because I have a whole job.
Nobody cares. Come on.
I'd say I got like 5 more minutes and then I
Kelly
gotta get
Hagemeyer
you.
can just deal with it.
I was not there on Thursday or Friday.
Okay,
so
all right.
I gotta-
You can go.
I'm sorry.
Were you on vacay or what?
No, my friend got married.
Oh,
Yeah,
I worked.
yeah.
good for them.
Yeah, she's married.
She's married now.
awesome.
Yeah,
She
that
worked.
was the
She- that was the
We've
goal.
got it done.
It was success.
Yeah. So
Successful.
I got to go do my
All
other
right,
job.
good
but
job.
I will be here tomorrow.
All right.
I'm
thanks.
sorry.
All right, goodbye. You know,
Have a
send
good day.
Hagemeyer down here to help out.
Yeah,
with the
next
show.
time.
All right, goodbye.
Tell her to show face.
GliaConnect, Aaron Sullivan does what?
Okay, so GliaConnect is a patient advocacy organization. We are local here in Kerrville. This is our headquarters, but we support patients and families and caregivers globally who live with microgliopathies, which are rare genetic neurological diseases.
Okay, you're going to have to go to give me some examples here because that seems like a pretty important sort of nonprofit role. Give us some ideas of like what are we talking about? What are we looking at here as far as these kind of these diseases? Yeah,
Sure. So we have 3 right now that diseases that are labeled as what we call primary microgliopathies. And what that means is that genetic variants are disrupting microglia, which are the brain's resident immune cells.
Okay.
And because they're disrupted in various ways, it's causing progressive neurological diseases. So the 3 main diseases right now that have been labeled as primary microgliopathies are adult onset leukoencephalopathy with axonal spheroids and pigmented glia. We just call it ALSP.
Okay.
Bandos and Nasu-Hakola. Right now, the majority of our patients are in the categories of ALSP and Bandos. Both of those diseases are caused by variants in the CSF1R gene.
So this is very complicated kind of science here we're talking about. Like, what are some of the common names of some of these diseases?
So ALSP, Bandos, and Nasu-Hakola, that's what they're known as.
Okay.
So they're very rare. I can give you a little background on how I got into this.
Yeah,
So let's personalize it a little bit to put it into context.
Yeah.
So I am from a family affected by ALSP.
Okay.
I have lost my grandmother, my aunts, and my mother to this disease. And then I have other family members that are affected by it.
ALSP.
Correct.
Not to be confused with
Yes.
ALS.
Not to be confused with ALS.
Different.
Very
All right.
different.
Okay.
So,
But equally troubling.
but equally troubling.
Yeah.
And like I said, because it's genetic, ALSP is passed along in what we call an autosomal dominant fashion. All that means in lay terms is that you need one variant to cause disease. So we see it wiping out generations of families.
Oh my gosh.
Can you explain that a little bit further?
Yeah.
Like expand on that? What do you mean by if it one variant and then that changes? Like, can you say that same thing again in different ways?
So in lay terms, right? So
You've thrown a lot at us here.
right. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's very complicated scientifically. So every parent gives one a copy of a CSF1R gene.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And the CSF1R gene is specifically expressed on microglia, which is why we call it a microgliopathy.
Yes. Which is the brain.
Which is a brain. It's the resident. It's the resident.
Good cell.
Yes, it's a very good cell. It's the immune cell of the
There
brain.
you go.
So
That's
it's
what I was
helping keep everything kind of working properly. In ALSP, one parent, either the mom or the dad, can pass along a mutated copy of the CSF1R gene. And that mutation, that variant, disrupts the microglia. So there's less microglia, and the ones that are present are dysfunctional. And so it causes all kinds of problems, ultimately leading to rapidly progressive neurodegeneration in adulthood.
And that's like that mutated gene can, from that person that inherited it can continue to pass it on, or is it like what are the stats with how likely?
So let's take my family as an example, right? My grandmother had a copy of the mutated CSF1R gene. We know definitively she passed that mutation on to my aunt and my mother.
Okay.
My aunt then has the likelihood of passing that on. Each child has a 50-50 chance of also inheriting that gene, that mutated gene.
Because it's either you or the other party, right? So like, is that why it's 50-50?
So it's kind of, it's just statistically, so like, so grandma has good copy,
Yeah.
mutated copy. Every child has a
Okay.
chance
of getting one of
getting
those.
either a good copy or a mutated copy.
From that one.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Dang.
And so in some diseases we hear like recessive, so it can skip generations because you need 2 variants for the disease to be caused. But in ours, you just need the one variant, and it's why we see it.
Wow.
It doesn't skip generations.
Wow.
It just keeps going.
It just keeps going.
Yeah.
Damn.
And what are some of the symptoms, or what happens to you essentially with some of these?
It is an absolutely vital question, and it's why these diseases are so highly misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed.
Yeah.
The age of onset can be quite variable. So when the disease presents, it can range anywhere from 20s to 60s. And we do have a few outliers to even that. Symptom onset can also be variable. So I'm going to again use my family as an example because it's a really good illustration of this. My grandmother became ill early to mid 50s, and her first symptoms were primarily cognitive, such as she was getting lost on the way home from work. She was no longer able to do basic math calculations needed for her job at the bank.
Okay.
As the disease progressed, we saw behavioral changes like disinhibited behavior, things like we're undressing at inappropriate times, things like that.
Yeah.
She ultimately lost the ability to speak, and then we also see motor changes. So trouble walking, trouble using your limbs, and then 40% of our patients also experience seizures, and unfortunately in my family, seizures are a really troublesome symptom, and so many of these symptoms are not controlled by medications, normal medications.
Oh my gosh.
Either. So let's go on to my aunt. So my aunt presented almost a decade earlier. So she became sick in her early to mid 40s, but her first symptoms were behavioral, so extreme depression, apathy, anxiety, again, that were not controlled by medication. It eventually progressed so that she also exhibited cognitive changes and motor changes and seizures, incontinence. Ultimately, all of our patients, as the disease progresses, they will all become mute and bedbound.
Oh no. No.
And then my mother became symptomatic at like late 50s.
Okay.
And her first symptoms were motor. So she had changes in the way she was walking, and her hand, she was a fantastic pianist and organist, her hands would not respond to commands. And again, eventually it progressed into cognitive changes and behavioral changes and seizures and incontinence.
Right. All the things that no one wants to have to deal with, but your organization then tries to help those families.
Exactly.
And this is a fairly rare onset, right? I mean, how many people does this affect, do you think, annually?
Again, another great question, and we don't have a clear picture to that, but what I can give you are some stats.
Yeah.
As of today, we know of 775 patients that have been diagnosed with a CSF1R mutation. However, one of our expert clinicians in the UK used the data from the UK Biobank, where they just, it's like a big study where they took different scans and genetic tests and blood work of a part of the population in the UK. He pulled data from that and extrapolated the numbers, and what he determined is that there are actually 2.1 million people worldwide that
who have
carry a disease-causing variant in
Wow.
CSF1R. So the big question is where are patients? We know that they're being misdiagnosed. We know they're being underdiagnosed. And again, going back to my family story, it took us 30 years to get an accurate diagnosis because you have age of onset so different, initial symptoms so different, genetic testing isn't widely used, and that's the only way that you can definitively diagnose these diseases.
I mean, that's, and that is a fairly common story, in a lot of these, diseases where, you'll hear these, folks who are like, doctors or researchers like, what? That can't, I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
I lived in a community where valley fever, which is a fungal, infection essentially, which is prevalent across even here in Texas in the Southwest, there wasn't a lot of treatment for it because it presented itself in ways like, oh, that's just going to be that's just the flu or meningitis or something. I mean, something terrible, but they weren't identifying what the real issue was. But now more people have had it and they're not starting to understand it better now. But still, it's a huge thing to educate not only the general public but the physicians and the researchers as well. So you got this group started then?
Yes.
Tell me about the journey to get this organization started.
Yes. So I was one of my mom's caretakers. So my dad was the primary caretaker, but I was very involved with her care. And it's a really lonely journey, caregiving in general and then in a rare disease. And because it's so rare, you really feel isolated. And you really believe that you're the only people in the whole world living with this, and it's lonely and it's overwhelming, and you don't know where to go to support. And like you said, it's educating yourselves about it with very limited information, and you're trying to educate your family and friends with limited information, and you're trying to get answers from the doctors, and it's just very frustrating. And so after my mom passed away, I was asked to come on by another advocacy organization, which I did, but there was a change last year in the advocacy and research landscape that kind of left a gap in advocacy, and the community came to me and asked that we start something new to continue the momentum. So GliaConnect was born from that as a community effort, and we're continuing the work of not only guiding education among patients and caregivers and doctors and researchers.
Yeah.
But we're leading support. So we have support groups. We have one-on-one support meetings. We also do educational webinars, I should say. We are initiating advocacy. So first week of August, we actually just completed our first annual ALSP CSF1R Awareness Week, which was a huge success. We applied to 32 cities, states, and provinces, and we received 17. So for our first year, it was absolutely incredible.
That's great.
And I do need to
Congratulations.
I do need to give a plug. So we also launched our first merchandise line, and the shirt that I'm wearing is from that.
Okay.
And the design on the back, which I'm going to show you in a minute, was actually designed by one of our patients, our Bandos patients. So she is now 22, but has been dealing with this illness since she was like 7, and it's unfortunately progressing. But she's a phenomenal young woman. Her name's Caitlin. She graduated a year early from college despite her illness, and she offered to make a design for us that is now on the back of my shirt. I don't know if we can see it.
Keep turning. Get your head out of the way. There it is.
Okay, there it is. So
Perfect.
this is the design that Caitlin made.
Unique Minds, Unbreakable Community.
Yes.
GliaConnect. I love it.
And what is so
Awesome.
powerful about this is, so why zebras?
Right.
Why zebras?
Yeah, why zebras?
Zebras are the universal symbol for rare disease.
Are they?
Oh.
They are. And it came about because of a quote. When you hear hoof beats, think zebras, not horses. So
Okay.
think for the uncommon.
Okay.
Think for the rare.
I like that.
All right. I like that.
And then behind the zebras is a brain scan. And if you look closely, you can actually see she hand drew the zebras, and the stripes are in line with the brain scan.
Okay.
And then why 2 zebras instead of 1? Because no one walks this journey alone, and the GliaConnect community stands together.
Yes. Very nice.
So it's very, very special to us. because it's one of our own community members that created it, and it really captures who we are as a community.
And what, and like in Texas, though, raising awareness about this, how difficult, how what's the challenge been like for you?
There are many challenges. I would say I have been working to get in front of clinicians that may work with our patients to educate them that this is a possibility, and to if they're unsure about the diagnosis, if it's like an atypical FTD, if it's an atypical early onset Alzheimer's, if it's an atypical MS, if it's an atypical Parkinson's, to continue pushing for answers.
Right.
And consider a differential diagnosis, because we need to find our patients. They need support. They need, we need to find our patients too, to continue pushing forward with research.
It sounds like an early onset Alzheimer's or
I was just
dementia.
thinking it because I see a lot of dementia stuff in my world, and
Yes.
it's just, it makes me think like people that get, I don't know, they know something's starting to go on, and like if they're not diagnosed yet, it just makes me wonder how many people get that kind of diagnosis or
And
talking to about dementia. And it's really,
I think
something
it's
else.
really perceptive, because I think that's ultimately what's happening, unfortunately, is they look at the person, they make a diagnosis based on their symptoms or their first kind of symptoms, and they drop them in the bucket, and they kind of hands off. And you had mentioned something about, doctors thinking, well, there's nothing we can do about this. And that's a real impediment for obtaining a correct diagnosis, because who wants to give someone that kind of news when you can't offer them any hope?
Yeah, right.
But here's the really good news in our community. Researchers are so invested in our diseases. Research is ongoing, and we're so blessed by that. But the reality is we need more patients to better understand the disease, to better participate in research, so that we can continue to work towards viable treatments. So it's not just about finding the words to describe what's happening. It's actually putting a diagnosis on it, so that research can happen, so that progress can be made, so that treatments can happen, so that quality of life can be preserved, and change in disease course can actually happen.
Very important stuff too. I mean, and then this group, this nonprofit, how old are you? How long have you been? Got to run? All right.
Good to meet you.
Yeah.
To meet you.
Sort of, kind of, but
Yeah.
yes, please, thank you.
Tell us about how the organization got set up.
Yeah, so like I said, there was a change in advocacy space, in the advocacy and research space. We had a pharmaceutical company running a clinical trial. So our community is very fortunate. We've actually completed a clinical trial. Unfortunately, the data on that was negative, and the company dissolved. And so there was a kind of a shift in advocacy and in research. And
that's the hard part too, is funding that research is sometimes a real challenge as well.
Yes, it is, absolutely. And so during that shift, the community reached out and said, hey, we don't want to lose momentum, let's keep things going. So like I said, GliaConnect was born from that as a community initiative. And because of my leadership role in the previous advocacy group, I stepped into the leadership role here.
Yeah. How does somebody get involved, and what kind of needs do you have?
Great question. Thank you for asking. So there's a whole list of needs, but I think top of the line, I would love opportunities to speak with any clinicians that may interact with our patients, just to educate them about this disease and diagnostic red flags, and encourage them to consider a differential diagnosis. So that would be, primary care physicians, neurologists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, physical therapists, genetic counselors, geneticists.
Yeah, right.
So always looking for ways to connect and get in front of them, just to talk about who we are, what diseases we represent, and like I said, just educate them on that.
It's interesting too, because we think about some of those diseases that we know are, common, that we were dismissive of before. I mean, I have celiac disease, so but I was like, when I remember hearing about celiac disease, I'm like, oh, that's nonsense. But it affects, millions of people now. Chronic fatigue syndrome, people thought that's a made-up thing, or fibromyalgia. Those are all things that it didn't seem real, but they definitely are, and we have a better understanding of it now. So just that education part of it as well. Now, did your mom live here in Kerrville, or where did she live?
My parents lived in Topeka, Kansas.
Okay.
That's where my dad still lives, and,
Yeah.
and multiple of my family. So
Yeah.
I was
What
flying
brought you to Texas?
My husband is a pastor at Holy Cross Lutheran Church.
Okay.
So we've been down here for almost 18 years.
Oh wow! And so you're having to educate people here that they've never heard. I mean, I've never heard of it.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And it's a common story, right? Like most people haven't heard of this, and that's just the truth of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when I first got into this space, I was shocked, frankly, to even learn that researchers were interested in this. And I've asked them, you know, why ALSP? Why this? And the answer has been the same, independently the same. We believe that if we can understand and treat ALSP, it will unlock understanding and potential therapies for other neurological diseases.
Right.
And that really was quite powerful for me to hear, because obviously I want good treatments for these sets of diseases that have so impacted my family. But to hear that the implications of learning about this disease and treating this disease could expand and help so many other patients living with neurological diseases, I mean, that's profound.
Yeah.
Because all of us know someone or are connected to someone that suffers from a neurological disease.
Right. Is there good news for you? Do you carry this yourself? Do you know?
So there is good news. I was tested in 2023 and I am negative.
Okay.
So I'm very grateful for that, which means that my kids also will not have to be tested. I can't pass that on to them.
Oh wow.
With that good news, though, also comes the hard reality that others in my family are still going to have. Like they are at risk.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So we've unfortunately not seen the last of this disease in my family, and it's part of the motivation for why I do what I do. We are determined to make sure that no one walks this journey alone.
Right. Very powerful. Again, give us the information on how to learn more and how to reach out.
Absolutely. So we have a phenomenal website designed by our marketing manager, www.GliaConnect.org. You can find information about the diseases, some of our projects. We've got webinars on there, our advocacy efforts. And there's also, I'll put in a plug for donations. We're a nonprofit. We need money to keep the lights on and keep doing this good work. So we appreciate, if this resonates with you, we'd appreciate you supporting us financially as well.
All right. Aaron Sullivan, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. We'll take a quick break. We have one.